Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Best Served Cold, Joe's first standalone, and the next First Law entry after the original trilogy. On this episode, we review King of Poisons and No Worse. So, let's get started. Folks, you know the drill. You are going to hear our thanks, and you're going to accept our thanks for your support.
That's it. Bye.
Yep.
That's the end of the episode.
See you next week.
Yeah, just, your continued support. It's been so warming. I feel like Farmer Fran from The Waterboy when the ball's in the air and he's like touching his nipples. Every time you guys support us, that's how it feels. George's face.
I don't know this reference.
You've never seen The Waterboy?
Nope.
All right. Anyway. That just put a damper on the whole fucking shebang. So we'll just go right into, I guess, our read-throughs because Harrison wants to just take a shit on a party. There's a good amount to cover in these two chapters that we're going to cover. I'm just going to get right to the main takeaway. The real travesty of what we're reading is the dissolution of our favorite dynamic duo. I'm talking about Morvier and Day, damn it.
That's just you, Jeff. That's just you.
Right. Well, he sees her as a daughter, from his own words.
You should hear the audiobook version of that when he says
Okay,
that.
I'm not. I don't even want to. No, I'm good.
Yeah, we all know there's no such thing as a normal relationship in the First Law, so
And George will attest to that a little bit later. But we start off King of Poisons from the perspective of Morvier, and here he is being gently awoken by his favorite all-time great apprentice, who shall never be besmirched in the history, the annals, Day. Turns out he had told her to wake him up at dawn, and he goes.
I'll do it.
Yeah, go ahead, do the whole thing.
For slumber has indeed released me from her soft bosom and back into the frigid embrace of an uncaring world.
She goes, what?
What?
That's the first thing. He woke up and immediately he opened his eyes, and that's what came to mind immediately.
No, he's been lying there for ages. He's been lying there for 10 minutes thinking of what to say when she wakes him up.
That's a good point. That's a good point. He probably was.
Or he probably has a Reader's Digest next to his bed, and he kind of goes over it every night before he goes to sleep.
Yeah, he's looking over as he says that over at the magazine. Oh, the frigid morning.
You know what it just reminded me of? Morvier, I feel like he's the E.B. Farnham from Deadwood of the First Law. You ever seen Deadwood?
I keep meaning to watch
No.
it.
Oh my god, you fucking
I feel
young kids are killing me. Fuck me, man.
I feel like this is gonna be the theme. You're gonna keep referencing old shit.
You guys, motherfuckers. I want to say terrible xenophobic things right now, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna talk to you guys about that a little later. But he is definitely an E.B. Farnham, but a more insidious character. So basically, in the meantime, before Day had woken him up, she got their little lab all set up, right? All the little, what do they call them? The beakers and the reagents are simmering away.
Yeah, all of those tools and poisons that no one knows that aren't actually real, but they say it in a way that sounds like they're real.
Yeah, basically we see a little montage of a little chemistry lab.
It's a little chemistry set, yeah.
Yep. I like how
I kind of find it funny that they have to have this lab all the time, and they don't just have all of this stuff ready to go. We've seen that Morvier has all of these poisons that are ready.
My dear, some poisons take a particular touch.
And I imagine there's probably a half-life or a shelf life, that they probably need to make fresh batches.
On some of them, sure, but it seems like it's a perfectly Morvier thing to do, just to show everybody that you're really busy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That is very true, very true. Although, as Arch Selector, you should know all about the process of making poisons. So, someone's not doing their due diligence.
don't need to poison someone if they're already strapped to a chair.
Very,
Oh,
very,
shit.
very true. That is a very good counter argument, and I cannot counter that counter argument. Anyway, so as he's looking around the little lab, he kind of laments the fact that no one understands him and that he's doomed to be misunderstood. And she doesn't even, again, I don't know, I didn't hear the audiobook, but she probably means this in a very straight-laced manner. She just says, "You're a complex person." but but he goes, "Exactly. You see it? You see deeply into me." And then she goes, "I made tea." Oh, and then he goes, "I am grateful for your kind attention, but no, alas, my digestion is unsettled, terribly unsettled."
I love how overdramatic Morvir is. Like, even when like, only Day is there, he's not trying to like show off or pander to anyone or anything. And he's still just like, woe is me. I'm the most hard done white person in the world.
Yeah, I love how Day too, her disposition in every one of these scenes is basically it's like, yes, yeah, like we see it from Morvir's perspective, so we don't see how she is like he's got rose tinted color glasses on. And so he thinks that she's like, "Oh, you poor thing," but really she's like, "You're just misunderstood. Yeah, you totally." Oh, yes, no, I understand. Yeah, no, we should definitely do that. Like, she just agrees with whatever he says. Pretty hilarious.
Yeah. And she asks him if their Gurkish visitor is making him nervous, and he lies. He goes, "Absolutely not." And I like how he goes, "My dyspepsia is the result of my ongoing difference with our employer." He goes, "He cannot find the correct approach with that woman. However cordial he behaves, however spotless his intentions, she bears it ill." And it was just funny, but Day goes, "She's somewhat prickly." Very true. Which, that's true, what Day says. And maybe Morvir does mean this, right? Where his intentions are pure, maybe, in terms of the success of the mission. But in terms of his mannerisms, how he comes off, his behavior, it isn't cordial.
Yeah, not at all.
It's polite, half-assed poetic language wrapped in sarcasm, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's
It's
why-
like when somebody does like thinks that they don't know that you're mocking them, but they do. Like,
Yeah.
Morvir thinks he's the smartest person in the world, so like everything that comes out of his mouth is just like these fucking big words he uses for no reason. It's like, oh yeah, you couldn't possibly. I bet you can't. You're gonna ask me what that means, aren't you?
And when they don't, he's like, "Fuck." He'll use it again just to try to push the issue.
Yeah, exactly.
But so but Day does not necessarily side with Monza, but she goes, "Well, she's probably prickly because the betrayal, being thrown down a mountain, the dead brother, and all that stuff." And then he goes, "Explanations, not excuses. We have all suffered painful reverses," which, to be fair to Morvir, this is very true. These are explanations.
true.
These are not excuses for you to act like a dick. However, if only Morvir could apply that same lesson to himself. And then he makes a joke where he says, "I do declare, I am half tempted to abandon her to her inevitable fate and possibly switch employment to maybe Duke Orso." Dun dun dun. And then here Day looks up sharply and she goes,
You're joking.
"You're joking, right?" And in Morvir's mind's eye, he has been joking, but he is
He's fancying the idea. He's
Yeah.
like, he's basically saying he thinks of it in his head, then he continues to kind of speak out loud, which is, well, he's got the resources, and he definitely could help us out. It probably would be the smart move.
Right, yeah, like he's amusing himself. Problem with that is, readers, we remember a few chapters ago, our serpent of talons
Planted a seed.
slithered her way into Day's mind by saying that Morvir might talk about switching over to Duke Orso, and if he does, he's gonna need a scapegoat. Bad timing. Bad timing. This is the serendipity in a negative form. And so as Harrison said, he starts like ticking off like, "Oh, Duke Orso can afford me. He needs me. He doesn't care about slight moral quandaries. And then they kind of interrupt. He goes, also a man with a record of pushing his employees down mountains. And Morveer goes, yeah, you should never just trust the person who would hire poisoner. And then she goes, but we killed his son. And he goes, such difficulties are easily explained away. We can just make up an invention. We could find a scapegoat. and then this is where Day nods slowly, mouth set hard, which I don't know how Morveer did not pick this up. She goes, a scapegoat. Of course.
Like a wretched one.
Yep. And in his mind, he's thinking of Shivers. He's thinking of maybe even blaming Friendly, which is a dick move to do. He's thinking of even Vittori. He was almost warming to the notion, but then he says out loud, but I dare say for the time being, we are stuck with Mercado. And then he goes, revenge. Is there a more pointless, unsatisfying motive in the world? And Day goes, I thought motives weren't our business, only jobs and the pay. And he goes, yes, you are correct, my dear. You are very correct. You see straight to the heart of the matter as always. Whatever would I do without you? And he goes, how are our preparations proceeding? And she goes, I know what to do. And he goes, good, very good. Of course you do. You learned from a master. And she bows and she goes, and I marked your lessons well. And he goes, yep, you absolutely. And he's looking around at some of the other like beakers nearby, whatever. And then he feels like a little prick on his forearm. He goes, what the? And he looks, and it's like a little dot of blood on his forearm. And he looks at Day, and she's backing slowly away from him with a very intense look on her face. And she had a needle in her hand. And then she goes, someone to take the blame? Scapegoat, am I? Fuck yourself, bastard. And we cut over to another perspective. That's a little yowza, right?
Yeah, he's leaving us on a cliffhanger there, even though it's just going to be a page or two.
Yeah, it's not long. But we switch over to Shiver's perspective, and the first thing we hear from his perspective is faithful Carpi suffering from a UTI. He is trying to piss, can't piss, finally does it, whatever. Anyway.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Always with old dudes too. I mean,
it's always it's because Joe's getting old and he understands. Yeah. Like he's got the prostate problems. And
yeah.
Jeff, how does that feel? You think it's a relatable scene?
How have you know my bladder is in fine working order?
Sounds a little sus.
Sounds a little sus. Oh, you cockney.
Anyways,
yes.
I think also puts it best in a much later book where he's always considered this bladder to be under his least interesting organs.
Yeah, who wants to talk about that? Anyway, so it's Shivers, Faithful Carpi, and a gentleman named Swole. I guess that's one of the lieutenants or sergeants or something. And
I think that's actually that fits so well. He's this fucking Swole, isn't he? And that was before that was even slang. I bet that was before that was even a slang word.
He is Swole? Like he's like
yeah, he's literally called Swole.
No, I know, but is he like jacked up? I don't know if we got a description of that.
He is in my head.
Oh, okay.
He's Swole Jack Muscle.
So I guess they're nearby a ridge and they're looking down at the farmhouse. They confirm that that's the place with Shivers. And Shivers goes, he's never done this much treachery. So it's making him a little nervous. So we kind of get the idea of what's happening.
Well, do we though? It's because he's portraying Monza, right?
Yeah.
I know we already talked in the last episode how he's obviously on Monza's side. But I do like how, despite this, Joe's trying to keep up the facade the whole time. He's like, he could go one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, very true. Very true. And Faithful, he looks at the, the whole setting. He goes, all right, it's peaceful enough. Swole, you take a dozen men, take them around the side, into that strand of trees down there, and get on the flank. So if they make a run for it, you can just mop up. And go, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Doesn't want to make it too much of a complicated plan or anything. When you overcomplicate things tend to hit shit hits the fan, right?
Yep.
And then he calls Mercado an evil bitch, and Faithful says, "Listen now, some respect. You were happy enough to clap for her when she gave you victories. You can clap for her now. It's just a shame that it had to come to this. That's all. Doesn't mean there can't be some respect." And Swole goes, "You know what? You're right. Sorry." So very nice exchange there. And then Swole goes, wouldn't it be better if we tried to sneak down there instead? I mean, we can't ride our horses into that farmhouse. And Swole makes a very good point. But then Faithful goes, "Did they pick a new Captain General while I was gone? And are you the new one?" And then Swole goes, "No, I just..." And Faithful tells him that creeping up isn't his style. No, they'll ride down there and spare his knees the exhaustion. And if she's got any surprises for them, he'd rather be in the saddle. And he looks at Shivers. He goes, "Do you have a problem with that plan?" And Shivers goes, "No, not at all." And Shivers makes a nice little estimation here. He goes, Faithful seems like one of those men that made a very good second and a poor chief. So a lot of bravery, but no imagination. He got stuck to one way of doing things and had to do it now, whether it fit the job or not.
I really like that description. There's this, we don't see it that much before this point, but we'll start to see this occur more and more times where Joe talks about these commanders in battle and what they're good at and what they're not good at. And I like that there's that difference. It's not just somebody's bad. He's got good qualities. He's loyal and he's he's a good fighter. He's scrappy. He knows how to give orders, but he's got no imagination. He can't actually make the decisions very well.
Right.
And we see other characters later on, plenty of them, who are good at some things and really bad at others. And I think that's it also helps contrast, because we're used to seeing main characters be good at everything. And so there aren't that many characters in the series who are like that. Mm-hmm. And every now and then, there are obviously Manta's a super flawed individual, but in terms of her leading people, she's got zero flaws. Not really. In terms of commander on the battlefield. And so seeing these differences in different commanders does accentuate the good ones out of the bad ones. I think that's a pretty good detail. It's hard to tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because in most fiction, they just be commanders, period. That's it.
Yep. And Shivers also added something else to his description where he goes, "Strong leaders might like it when somebody brings them a better idea, but weak ones never do." That's something else to point out. Yeah, someone that's not secure in their position in leadership isn't going to necessarily take kindly to someone just suggesting things.
That goes for management too.
Yeah,
especially when they counter to what you've already told them to do.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So they get on their horses and they're about to start riding out. And then we cut back over to Morveer's perspective. And he is wobbling. He's trying to take a slow steps towards Day. He goes, but, and he looks at what, I guess Day must have done. And he goes, "The king of poisons." And she goes, "What else? Caution first, always." And he kind of falls to his knees. She kicks his hand away. And she goes, "What? Doomed to be misunderstood?" And her face has contempt, hatred. No more obedience, admiration, innocence, none of that. She goes, "What do you think there is to understand about you, you swollen-headed parasite? You're thin as tissue paper. Ooh, the personality of a baby in the body of a murderer, bully and coward in one. Castor Morveer, greatest poisoner in the world, greatest bore in the world, maybe."
Oh, shit!
She was just getting started. And then apparently he kind of just springs forward with reckless abandon, nicks her ankle with the scalpel, rolls under the table, and comes up the other side grinning. And he goes, "Ha ha! You poisoned me, the great Castor Morveer, undone by his assistant? I think not."
I mean, it's pretty smart. We thought he was just being dramatic as always, but he's being dramatic with a purpose, and I thought that was pretty good. He still got it.
You still got it. He goes, there is no king of poisons, fool. The method I showed you that produces a liquid that smells, tastes, and looks like water. Yeah, it looks like water. Yuck. And harmless. And then he goes, unlike what I just pricked you with now that will kill a dozen horses. And then he grabs the antidote and he goes, looky here. And now she's like, now her feet are a little clumsy. And he goes, oh, this is most undignified, chasing each other around in a barn in the middle of rural Styria. Truly undignified. And then she goes, please, please. And he goes, don't embarrass us both. Go ahead, George.
He comes out with some of the best insults I've ever heard, especially when Stephen Pacey's done something like, you ingrate, harpy,
You are
you treacherous cuckoo.
Oh my god, that is hilarious.
Oh, it's so stupid. It's so stupid, but I love it.
It's so funny. And then Day goes, I didn't want to take the blame. That's all. Mercado said sooner or later you'd go over to Orso, that you'd want to use me as a scapegoat. Mercado said, and then Morvier loses his shit. He goes, Mercado? You listen to Mercado over me? That degenerate, husk-addled, and notorious butcher of the bloody battlefield? Oh, commendable guiding light. Curse me for an imbecile to trust either one of you. It seems you were correct, at least that I am like a baby. All unspoiled innocence. All undeserved mercy.
I just love it. Like the second Morvier just thrives on this. I bet this is how he's had so many assistants because he just loves winding people up to the point that they snap, and then he's like, "I knew it! I knew it! I will always. Everyone's against me all the time."
The whole King of Poisons thing means that the very first scene we see him in, where he's showing Day how to make the King of Poisons, it's just showing her how to make water or whatever. Shows that he didn't trust her from the beginning. That's how he does it. It's probably how he's killed every single one of his assistants.
Oh my god!
It's so fucking.
But it is also fucking genius. What an excellent plan. If you're training a poisoner and you tell them this is my most sacred recipe, no one's ever gonna know this. Only you can know this. And then that person is like, okay, I'm gonna kill him with his own recipe. How typical. And then he's like, he nicks her with nothing, and then convinces her, that's right, fucking got you, bitch. And then she's like, oh no. And he says, here's the antidote. Tosses it over to her, and that's actually the poison. That's pretty smart. I mean, it's fucked up, but it's smart.
Yeah.
Because as soon as Day takes it, she's like, oh, okay, well, we need to talk. She actually says something that people in this book series hardly ever do, which is like, hey, okay, my bad, let's communicate. And then she dies. Yeah,
seriously. Because he let it get to his head. As Harrison said, he had offered her an antidote. He said, but let it never be said that I am not as generous, merciful, or forgiving as any poisoner within the entire circle of the world. Name drop. And then, yes, she says we need to talk. And then he goes, we most certainly do, but not for long. And then right there, her face, she has a spasm. And he tells her the blade carried no poison, but you just drank an entire vial of undiluted leopard flower. And she just starts having a seizure and starts fucking dying. And it's just... and then, I mean, we'll talk about this in a moment. But anyway, and then he goes, kill me. Would you poison me? Castan Morvier? I am the only king of poisons, you child-faced fool.
Child-faced fool.
She does, in fact, have a child face. It's confirmed in canon.
I know. You'd think he'd have some slightly better insults ready to go for this kind of situation, you know? He's got so many big words.
He's running out. He's running out.
Yeah, he really is, because at this point he goes, the simple insolence of you, the arrogance, the insult, and then he realizes, oh, she dead. And then he goes, fuck. He's upset because now he's assistantless and now pretty much employerless because he can't trust Manza now that he knows.
And even if he could, he'd probably have to explain how Day is just dead.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it was an accident.
She went out to get cigarettes for me. Please don't mind. And then he continues to talk shit to her corpse. He goes, thin as paper am I? You shit! He's kicking her corpse. Swollen-headed? Me? Why, I am humility its fucking self. And then out of nowhere, it's not exactly befitting a man of his boundless sensitivity, wink wink, to kick a person that's already dead, especially one that he had cared for almost as a daughter, and then he suddenly felt like regret.
Regret? What
Yeah.
was that? You
And
said
he-
regret? Say what?
He regrets it. For a few moments here, he goes down like on his knees.
Yeah,
And he's just like, I'm sorry. I will always. Is that piss?
That's so funny.
That's it. The regret is gone.
He's like, how dare this piss interrupt my morning of my assistant?
And then he then proceeds to kick the body again. And he goes,
Just a good
Mercado!
He's like in Star Trek, and he's like, Khan! He's like, Mercado!
And I love this bit too, where he goes, the evil witch had incited his apprentice to treachery, the best and most loved apprentice he had trained since he was obliged to preemptively poison Aloveo Cray back in Ostenhorn. He knew he should have killed Mercado in his orchard, but the scale, the importance, and the apparent impossibility of the work she offered had appealed to his vanity. Curse my vanity, the one flaw in my entire character.
He's such a meme.
Yeah, Morveer is just a walking meme.
You know what's funny though is if the movie comes out, if they cast the correct person, there's gonna be so many edits of him just being like Slay Queen, he's gonna be the sassiest bitch ever, and it's gonna be equally entertaining. Like,
oh yeah,
it'd be so cool.
Absolutely. And so now he's thinking what to do. And he goes, well, now I need to find a proper new employer. Someone who would pay him to murder the Butcher of Caprio. Well, not so hard of an question to solve, right? And so then he's looking out the window. He's practicing a certain bow. He goes, Grand Duke Orso, an incomparable honor. And then he actually looks through the window. He looks at the top of the rise of the hill, and he sees several dozen riders, and he goes, huh? And then we switch back over to Shiver's perspective, and him and Faithful Carpy and the mercenaries, this little group. Remember, it's not the entire company of the 1,000 Swords. It's just 3 dozen or 3 score, I think, or something like that. And besides Swole's little group of men, they start just galloping towards the farmhouse. Shivers is kind of going. He's not hanging back, but he's very like aware of his position. And as they get closer, he kind of loosens his feet in the stirrups of the horse, and we know why, because out of nowhere, all the windows of the farmhouse kind of bang open, and then a bunch of Osprian crossbowmen are there, and then Shivers goes, "Fuck this." And he just basically, he does a tuck and roll while arrows start flitting and hitting all the mercenaries and everything. And Shivers trying to, fight back up to his feet again. And then we cut back to Morveer. And Morveer had opened the double barn doors to see what was going on. And he sees Osprian soldiers. They come from a wall that's nearby. And they let loose a volley, and it hits the men, like I said, galloping as well. And then Morveer is like freaking out because this is war. This is not what I'm about. This is not what I'm good at. So he closes the door, and he's trying to figure out what to do. Because again, if he can't trust Monza, he can't go back to her, but then he can't also explain what happened today. And then he goes, what are his options? Hide in the hayloft? No. What was he, 5? Lay down besides poor day and play dead? What, lie down in urine? Never! So what he does is he goes to the back of the barn and starts like prying at some of the wooden planks on the wall. And near the ground, there is a loose one, so he starts pulling it open. And he kicks at it and everything. Then he kind of gets through a little bit. He gets a head, he gets a shoulder, like one arm through. What else? And he gets up to his waist, but he's not as thin as he was 10 years ago. All those pastries in the orchard, they put in some work on your waist. And then as he's stuck, right, he goes, "Damn pastries!" Like
Oh my
everything,
god! It's just everything he says is just so fucking narcissistic. It's just like it's the pastry's fault. It's not my fault. It can't be my fault. They forced me to eat them.
Yep.
I fucking love Morville. He's just one of the best characters Joe's ever written. He's just so fucking hateable but lovable at the same time. It's like, what the fuck?
Very true, very true. And he finally he's able to break through the hole a little bit and drag himself through, but he cut himself, like some of the wood cut himself down, like down his ribs and even I think to his ankle a little bit. And he took like 5 steps before like busting ass, and then he gets up again, and he was about to look for one of his shoes. He lost it in the wheat, I guess, and so he hears like a crashing noise, and a dozen horsemen had come from the trees that he was going in that direction of, and going and now they're coming at him at a full gallop with spears lowered, and he's like, "Oh fuck!" So he turns around and limps back to the barn. And he tries to slide back in through the hole. He goes in feet first, and he's stuck.
You know what I love? The thing I always think of whenever I get to this part is how funny it would be if the barn doors that he was like, "Oh no, I can't go through there," is if they were right next to where the hole is, like right next to it. So he like, "Oh no, I have to go through this way because I can be sneaky." And then he sits back up and he starts going back through, and then right as he's sticking through, he sees that the barn doors are right there, or the whole time the audience can see it's just right there the whole time. A normal door. Fucking kill me.
Oh my god. I'm in practical tears. And then this guy's stuck in that hole again. And he looks, and the horsemen, they're like 50 strides away. And he goes, "Is this how meet his end? Poor, humble Gaster Morveer, who only ever wanted to be loved," or whatever.
It's so ridiculous.
But just at that moment, the corner of the barn exploded into fire. Morveer sees like a couple of barrels, exposed barrels, and we can assume that it's Gurkish fire. And it basically just wipes out all the horsemen.
Yeah.
And so, with that, Morveer, it was even though he was a little like stunned, he was able to get kind of bring himself to his senses and dive into the stalks of wheat. And then he looks, and there's a figure coming around the corner, and it was Ishri. And he said, one arm and the hem of her coat were on fire. And it's only like she just noticed as the flames were touching her face. So then she just takes off the shirt with no big deal. And he notices she takes off the coat, no big deal. And he notices that underneath the coat, she is completely bandaged from neck to toe. So we now know for sure that she is completely bandaged. And she takes one long look towards the trees, and she said something in Kantic, and Morveer is able to kind of surmise that it sounded like, "You still have it, Ishri." And then she looks around the area. She even like looks at where Morveer is hiding, and then she kind of just turns around and walks away, and she says it to herself again, "You still have it." And then Morveer decided, "Fuck this, I am out of here." So he starts crawling through the trees, to escape this fucking scenario. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate that chapter?
I'm gonna give this one an 8. I fucking love this chapter.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. I love Morveer, and I'm sad to see Tay go, but this is such a good like her death serves Morveer's character so well. Just this whole moment of I think it's absolutely ridiculous, but it's one of the funniest chapters in the whole series. So yeah, definitely an 8.
It's really funny.
I'll be honest with you. I think I was gonna give it an 8 too.
Really?
Yeah, it's just a funny. I was dying. I was dying in this chapter. I mean, just hilarious because we have some plot development. Okay, the Thousand Swords, at least some of the Thousand Swords led by Faithful Carpi attacked. So we got movement there. And we get a different perspective, with Shivers. But really, just the character, I don't know if I want to say development, but just the insight into everything. Him and Day probably, if just cooler heads would have prevailed, they could have pieced it out. If Morveer wasn't such a egomaniacal prick, right, in terms of joking about switching over, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even if he was to joke, he noticed. We're looking at this from his perspective. He noticed that they looked up sharply and said, "You're joking," and then she had a certain face before she pricked him and everything. I would have been like, "Hey, everything all right?" But no, he's like, "Oh, woe is me. I am great. Oh, no one understands me, but you understand me. You're amazing. You're the best because I'm the best, and I taught you to be the best. I'm still better, but
And narcissism.
you're the best." Yes, yes.
Textbook, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then she goes, "Look, we need to talk. We really need to talk. You gave me the antidote, thank you, but we need to talk." And nope, he never gave her the
No
antidote.
chances.
No second chances ever.
I think I am gonna rate it a 7.
All right, you want to be the dissenting opinion, okay?
The contrarian. I don't know. I just don't like it as I think it's a good chapter, and I think it captures Morveer. I wouldn't say it's the Morveer chapter, maybe. Well, actually, you know what? I think it would. It captures everything that he is. He's super hilarious accidentally. He is untrusting of everyone. He is a full-blown narcissist, but he's also very clever and he's very quick to figure out what he wants to do. And so I think it's the Morveer chapter, but I don't know. I don't know. I just don't enjoy it that much.
I thought it was great. Just it all came to his head. His just everything with Day, the dynamic, what we thought it was, what it could have been, what it really was. Just so much.
Yeah. What's that line he says? He says, in Day, he loved her kind of like a father.
Like a daughter, right?
Like a daughter. Look, he loved her kind of like a daughter.
Kind of like a daughter.
There's a pause that Pacey does that's makes it uncomfortable.
Interesting. All right.
But I don't know. I just didn't like it as much. But
and that's
I think
okay.
It's still a great chapter.
That's great. Well, that's the end of the first chapter read-through. We'll move on to our next segment, which is Best Meme of the Week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
We've got yet another Tamil Ball original. It's been a little bit quieter on House of the Meme Maker lately, which is fine. It's been 3 years since the last book came out, so that's fair enough. But this speaks to this book and then the second trilogy as well. It's this girl looking quite thirsty, let's say. Just like when you find out he's your brother. Which is, it's a theme. It's a theme in these books. There's quite a lot of that going on, actually, if I want to think about it.
There is an enormous amount, but that's all right.
Has exactly twice as many incestual relationships as the next biggest fantasy theories.
Very true. Well,
so thanks, Tamil Ball.
Yep, thank you for that, George, and thank you, Tamil Bor. So we'll move on to our second and final chapter read-through for this episode. This is No Worse. And we started off with the perspective of Manza. She's in the heat of battle. Bun, bun, bun. And that's where a lot of this chapter really is. So I'm not going to... And it's not so much like heavy battle. It's just kind of her going from one place to another looking for Faithful Carpi. She did kill one guy who goes, tell my... and Manza goes, what? Who? And then he just stops moving. And she goes, oh, fuck. This is like Barrow or Paro or Pharaoh. He's like a cousin of Swole's. Oh, fuck. I knew him from Macelia. Shit.
Yeah,
Pharaoh-
it's interesting though that she actually does remember him. I would say that's pretty significant.
I mean, we know that Monza's a really, well, actually, a decent fucking commander, a very, very good commander. And she does make a point that she kind of gets to know everybody and what they're good at.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
So
one of the things.
it's a good detail. But I like how she is kind of thrown off there and she's like, Pharaoh? In the middle of this
Who?
fight.
Yeah, and she fights a couple other people. There's this one dude with the mace that cracks her in the head, but then Vitari is able to come in and help her out by holding him with that chain around his neck, and while Monza stabs him, apparently a bunch of times, to the point where Vitari goes, "Jesus, he's dead already." And then, as she looks around, she sees faithful Carpi on his horse, roaring orders. Looks not like nothing has changed in terms of how she sees him, like how he looks to her. He looks
Right.
the same, except he has like a shiny breastplate and a long red cloak that's more suited for a duke than a mercenary. And he had a flat bolt sticking out from his right shoulder, so his right arm is now useless. And so he's just pointing a sword with his left hand towards the house. So she notes that the funny thing is that the first time she saw him again was she felt like a rush of warmth for him. It's like when you see a friend's face in a crowd. Faithful Carpi who led 5 charges for her, who fought for her in all winners and never let her down, who she would have trusted with her life, who she had trusted with her life, and he sold it cheap for Casca's old chair. Sold her life and her brother's. So
Right, just like that, Monza, just like that. Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, it's not just that simple.
That's it. And so it's very evident that the Thousand Swords numbers are dwindling. So Faithful Carpi makes a smart decision and he beats it. He's out. And so Monza hops on a horse that was nearby that didn't have a rider. The rider got speared or something. And so she starts chasing him. And now it's those two. And she's slowly gaining on him. I guess her horse is faster. His horse, when they jumped over a tree, a fallen tree or something, his horse had landed wrong. So it might have hurt its leg.
Yeah.
So now Monza's horse is gaining on them even more.
I mean, it's kind of, this whole scene is kind of like a chase scene, and Monza is doing the thing that she's known for, which is she's like hyping herself up. She sees him initially, and she's like, "Oh, there's my friend. No, I hate him. He killed my brother." And she does that through this whole way, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but that's what this beginning part is about. She obviously, like you said, his horse is a little injured, so it's not moving as fast. And she is a pretty good rider, so she gets on the move and is chasing after him hard and fast. And she is leaning over the horse, and it's kind of just going through the motions of her going pretty quick down the road after him. And she's it's implied that it's basically like it's just a chase scene. That's really what is going on here for the next
And
page.
for a chase scene, it is very well written. Like it's very especially when you listen to it in the audiobook, it doesn't feel like a page. You know what I mean?
Right. No, if it is well written, it's intense for sure.
It's very intense. We it's just very descriptive with everything that's going on, and her trying to convince herself that this is the right thing to do. But he eventually is slowed down enough that she catches up to him, and she gets close to him and is able to stab the horse in its leg, and the horse goes head over and throws him off and probably hurts pretty bad. Horse is toast. And poor pony.
Another horsey casualty.
No horses were harmed in the riding of these ponies.
No, Joe had to kill a horse every time he rewrote the segment.
She's kind of like doing this thing that we see her do, where she's like, yeah, that's right, you punk ass. She's walking up to him, and she she can see now that he's pretty injured, not just from falling off the horse, but like he's bloody. He's got blood coming off his face. His arm hurts, and she sees that one of his arms is pretty useless. So she's like, takes time to learn how to use the wrong hand. I should know. You don't have that much fucking time, Carpy. And they had rode up on a stream. It's like a creek, and there's a water mill that's there, and so he's getting close to that stream. He's kind of like backing away, stumbling around.
Yeah, she kicks him into the stream at some point. Remember?
And she after she calls out to him, and she takes her heel out of the stirrup, and she kicks him into the stream, and then she stabs him with the spear, and he doesn't look very, he keeps going, and she's like, "Oh, you keep going, that's admirable, just like always. Yeah, you're so strong." And then she's kind of running out of steam here, and she's like, "You can keep on going. I'll give you that. No one could call you a coward, just an idiot, stupid Carpy." It's not.
She doesn't
not
really.
good.
She's not
She
like.
forced that. Yeah, her heart's not in it. She says it says she forced out a laugh. "I can't believe you fell for this shit. All those years taking my orders, you should have known better. Thought I'd be sitting there waiting, weeping over my misfortunes." She's just blabbering on, really. And he's like, "That fucking Northman lied to me." And
I love how he's actually surprised, like.
yeah. He's like, "Oh, could this happen?"
In this universe, there must be like actual normal transactions going on all the time that we don't see, because there's always fucking treachery.
Yeah, there is. There's definitely. But she's not wrong. How could he have not guessed something was gonna happen?
Right.
But and she says, "Well, you should have stabbed me in the heart instead of the guts." And he snaps back. Now he's in the stream, and he's sitting there all unceremoniously. He's like, "A heart? You don't have one." And that's whenever she stabs him. And sorry. He pulls out a dagger. He's getting ready to go at him again. And he says, "I'm better than you, you murdering scum." And she retorts back that, "How is it that you're better than me when I'm the one with the spear, fucker?"
Mhm.
And she says it again. "You keep coming, Carpy. I'll give you that. No one could call you a coward. Just a liar. Traitor Carpy."
Mm-hmm. And
now,
I like. Yeah, go ahead, George.
Carpy comes out with his explanation, like, basically exactly the same thing. Oh well, we haven't got to that. Have we got to that bit yet? As that flashback bit yet? I can't remember.
Well, yeah, no,
been.
you could
Exactly
say
the same thing happened to
Exactly
Carpy
the same thing. Yeah.
with her as happened to Benner and her with Costco. So it's just like, oh shit, yeah, no, I didn't really have a choice there, and maybe he didn't either.
Yeah.
So it is that immediately sours the whole thing. She's just like, oh fuck, because she doesn't have any second thought. She's not going back on it, but you can definitely tell that she's feeling that way.
Right.
Yeah, she says, like, "Well, I didn't throw Costco down the mountain." And then he says, "You think I wanted to do it? You think I wanted any of this?" And the Pacey's really good at these old men voices, probably because he's an old man.
Yeah.
But the way he does I was loyal to him. I'm faithful. That's what I am. What I was. You stole that from me. You and your fucking brother. Like, Pacey does such a good job doing that. That's one of his better performances. Is that moment. His voice is, you can hear the emotion. You get his voice cracks and stuff. He does really, really good job in that scene.
And then he says it. He goes, "Do you think I wanted any of this?" There were tears in his eyes. And he says it, "I'm not made to lead." Ario comes to me, says, "Orso's decided you can't be trusted, that you have to go, that you're the past and I'm the future, and the rest of the captains already agreed. So I took the easy way. What was my choice?" And now, I mean, like you said, what the fuck?
I'm just not enjoying herself anymore.
No, because she took the easy choice too. And then she goes, "You could have warned me, given me a chance to." And he goes, "Like you warned Casca? Like you warned me? Fuck you." He goes, You pointed out the path, and I just followed. That's it. You sow bloody seeds, you reap a bloody harvest, and you specifically sowed all these seeds across Styria and back. You did this to yourself. You did this too. And then here, Harrison, like you were going to allude to, was
he's sitting there talking, and then he's like, "Ah!" And then he gets kind of yanked back. He's still got his cloak on, and it gets caught in the gears of the water wheel, and starts pulling him under. And he's trying to like cut it off, and it's slowly turning, and he's like, ah, fucking, he's only got one arm, and he's trying to do it, but there was no stopping it. And so Monza wanted to say more words. She wanted to her normal spiel, which normally she wouldn't. She would keep going, but she can't. And she's having a hard time, and she's kind of stunned now. She's just like in she doesn't know what to do. And he says, "I'm no worse than you, Mercado. Just what I had to do." And as he's slowly getting pulled underneath the water, and he's like, "I'm no worse than," and then he gets pulled all the way under the water wheel. And she starts reminiscing. She's thinking about how faithful he was, and how she was like his second, and he always did what was right, and he always trusted her, and vice versa. And now she's watching this old man, slowly being drowned just from his cloak that she ran down. She's not even getting this vengeance. She's not getting any satisfaction out of this. And so she jumps down, and she starts trying to pull him out. A complete reverse. She doesn't want this, and she starts trying to save him. Starts trying to yank him out. She's using all of her muscles, all of her strength that she has. But he can tell. This is the tragic part for me. He can tell that she's trying to help him, because he's trying to help her. He's feeling her. He's trying to clasp it, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
he drowns.
The spear broke.
Yeah, the spear that was kind of holding it back, that she put into the water wheel to try to slow it down. It broke, and he got pulled all the way under, and he slowly came back up on the other side, splayed out, dead, drowned. And
that's fucking rough.
5 dead, 2 left.
And she feels her gut rich, and she doubles over, and she spits on the ground, and then she spits again, and as he slowly comes back over, she can feel him, like, looking at him, and she starts thinking about probably she should cut him down, give him some shred of dignity. He was her friend, no hero maybe, but who was a man who wanted to be loyal in a treacherous business, in a treacherous world, a man who wanted to be loyal and found it had gone out of fashion. Probably she would have dragged him up under the bank at least, left him somewhere he could lie still, but instead, she turned her horse back towards the farm. Dignity wasn't much help to the living, and it was none to the dead. She came here to kill Faithful, and he was killed. No point in weeping about it now.
Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the chapter there. Boys, what do you think? Harrison, what score would you give it?
It doesn't start off too strong. You're like, action scene. Oh, we've seen this Monza thing. She's gonna go be pissed off. It's kind of annoying, actually, at first. You're like, oh, come on, Monza, really? Like, you don't have... But then she changes on... I don't want to say changes on a dime. There's been inklings of it, but I love this. I love how each kill has gotten a little bit worse, and to the point now she can't bear it. Now she can't bear watching somebody who she knows, who is a good man, in all proper respects to the first law, go and die, and she didn't even get to kill him. He fucking drowned to death.
Yeah.
Because she wanted to smack talk and feel good about herself, even though she didn't at all. And he made a perfectly good point. Something that she lacks was perspective. So, but I would say, it's one of those chapters. So I'm gonna say this is a 7 in a knuckle for me.
Okay.
Because that last scene was really good. I think that kind of tone change and how she feels and how it looks, it doesn't feel good at all. It's just a depressing chapter. So I think 7 and knuckle for me out of that.
I think I'm going to give it a 7 as well, because I find it interesting that, like, as Joe's writing style goes on, all of the chapters become a lot less episodic. Like, you've got kind of the build up to this with Shivers going to the camp, and then the charge happens during Morpheus' chapter, which is also a big moment. And then this is just the climax of the whole thing. And I find that interesting because it's almost like the book is trying to put your attention elsewhere as well. Like, you don't have the Monza's focus the whole time. You don't know what she's thinking about right up until this moment when she's trying to, like, egg herself on.
Right.
And I think that's a really interesting way to do it, because you get to the end and, like you say, Harrison, it's just so sad. It's just,
It is sad.
and I feel like we should have got to know Faithful Carpe a bit better,
Yeah, I agree.
And it just feels like not a waste, but a waste, but in a narratively pleasing way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What a waste. This man wasn't built for this. Get him the fuck out of here.
But I'd say if the whole thing was just one segment, say, the whole thing was Shivers, and then the Morphea bit was somewhere else in the book, I think it will make this better.
Yep. I think you're right.
Because there's a lot of comedy in the last chapter. And
Right.
then there's this, and it's just like, oh fuck.
Right. I see what you're saying. Well, I like that Joe kind of like he switches it up like that though.
No, I definitely think it's a sign of him again improving.
No,
This
for
is
sure.
only his fourth book.
That's very true.
As you keep saying.
It's very true. I'm stuck between a 6 and a knuckle and a 7. I think I'll go 7.
Nice.
7 out of 9 fingers. Great chapter. We get, it's a kill. One of the, one of her lists, knocked off, and it's Faithful Carpe, who never came off as as evil as like a Gaba did, right?
Yep.
Or as
I mean, he's the only one there that shows any remorse when they kill him.
not the only one, but yes, and you'll see what I'm talking. Come on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But probably the most remorse then.
Probably. But yeah, he definitely has remorse, but also he has legitimate anger towards Monza, because by betraying Casca, she put Carpe on the path to this inevitability of betraying Monza eventually, because of course we'll talk about why Duke Orso thought it was needed to, but that was written in the stars. That's what's gonna happen, and at least to Carpe's eyes, that he blames Monza for it.
Yep.
And Monza doesn't get that satisfaction. The only bit of satisfaction she got was obviously killing Gaba. You could argue she got some satisfaction from killing Oreo, but she was high off her ass and stoned. She doesn't even remember that one. So that's about it. Other than that, she really has not been getting any satisfaction from these kills. No, even Gammark, I don't think she got too. I think she was okay with it. Like, she got some satisfaction, but not too much, right?
I feel like it was all a bit ruined from Casca dying.
Right. From Casca
She
dying.
immediately has to move on to that and be like, oh,
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's a very good chapter. I'll give it a 7 out of 9 fingers. And so let's move on to our character spot of the episode. Boys, who are we highlighting today?
The one, the only, stupid Carpe! Yay!
Idiot Carpe.
Traitor Carpe.
Yuck Carpe.
I find that funny as well, that we always say about the rule of 3, and he doesn't quite get there in this one, and I think that's actually quite interesting, that like she's making the jokes and calling him names, and then she finds the truth and she doesn't want to do the last one.
Actually, she does do the last one.
Does she?
She does. She calls him stupid Carpe, and she doesn't say it out loud. She's got stupid Carpe, traitor Carpe, and faithful Carpe.
Oh. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I didn't think about it that way. That's sad.
It's sad.
So let's talk a little bit about Carpe. What do we know about his upbringing, his birth years? Tell us what his childhood was like, Harrison. You're the Adeptus Historical.
Well, he grew up on a farm in Austin Holmes. No, we don't know anything about him. The implication, and I kind of mentioned it before, he's basically like a straight edge from the north. That's kind of like what he is. But it seems to me like he's just a normal dude who has got enough smarts to know how to play like the game of, in mercenary politics, inside the party, inside the mercenary company. And he's good at giving orders, and he is, a decent, he's a good sergeant, but he's like Shiver said, he's not creative, but he doesn't need to be. It's just what makes it tragic is that he is in the wrong business.
Mm-hmm.
He is in the mercenary business. He should have known that this would have happened at some point.
Yeah.
And it's
Fucking
actually like it's almost you get used to these characters, especially at the beginning. You're kind of like you kind of treat it like Monta too. Like, oh yeah, Ario's a dickhead, and Ganmark's not a good person, obviously, and Gobbler was a terrible person. We get to Faithful, and he's just a dude working a job. He's like a blue collar worker. And that
He just wanted his pension. That's all.
yeah, he just wanted his pension. He's just a dude, and he just did what he was told. He literally did what he was told the whole time he was alive. He did what he was told and was punished for it. And obviously, he's got his shortfallings, but he, like Monta's realization, he didn't do anything anybody else wouldn't have done.
Right.
I mean, it is exactly that. I mean, and again, I kind of talked about it in my rating there, but such a waste of a character in a way that it's just FOMO. Like I read a whole book about these guys, Casca and Monza and Faithful Carpi on the fucking road or something. I've got doing their campaigns. So I thought I'd read that, even if it was not particularly interesting, like plot wise. But yeah, I've never had a book give me FOMO about a character.
FOMO. That's funny. FOMO. I mean, we see that he's a great follower. He's faithful. We see that. A great second, like Shiver said. But in terms of leading, he's not good at it, and he didn't even want to do it.
No, he didn't.
No, he did not.
But then neither did Monza and Bennett. Well, Bennett did, but Monza definitely didn't.
Yeah, but Monza's good at it, though.
That's true.
And she practically, I mean, she just didn't want to betray Casca, but she was already taking the reins. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. And like you said, Harrison, this guy should have just been running a fucking like a genuine business. But it's just a shame that there's so few opportunities for people in this world. In the first law, not the real world, but the real world as well. But
yeah, he should have learned how to code.
He should have learned how to code.
Fuck's sake, Carp, stupid Carp. He didn't learn how to code.
Stupid Carp. He really did earn his name, didn't he?
Stupid.
For fuck's sake.
Oh, faithful Carpy, we hardly knew ye.
Do we also?
But yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish your thought on him, George.
He definitely seems like the best sort of. A lot of characters surprise you with how, not nice, but like generally like more moral than they seem. And I think he definitely seems like the kind of person who just doesn't really want to be making any of these kinds of decisions. He doesn't want to be. Which is why he's not creative, I think, when he said he's not creative. And because he doesn't really want to be doing it, he just wants to find the best way that he survives and makes some money. But, yeah. Oh, well.
Well, that's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot.
Join us next week as we cover Harvest Time, the old new Captain General, and his plan of attack.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media, and we have a website at circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast. Thank you all again for listening.
Damn pastries!